Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey here. Let me talk to you for a moment about something real, something deep, something that hits a lot of people right in the chest. The woman he lost is the woman he prays for now. And that ain't poetry, that's life. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey here, and let me slow this thing down and talk to you straight from the heart. Men often realize a woman's value only after her absence creates silence, loss, and regret. And that truth shows up in more lives than people are willing to admit. When she was there, she was doing so much that it felt normal. Her love became routine. Her support became expected. Her presence became background noise instead of the blessing it really was. She handled things without complaining, fixed problems before they became disasters, and carried emotional weight he didn't even know existed. And because she made it look easy, he assumed it was easy. That's where the mistake begins. See, when a woman truly loves you, she fills in gaps you don't even see. She listens when you're frustrated, encourages you when you doubt yourself, and stands beside you when you don't feel strong enough to stand alone. She celebrates your wins like they're her own and protects your name, even when you're not in the room. But when a man gets used to that kind of consistency, he stops appreciating it. He starts thinking that love is automatic, that effort is optional, and that she'll always be there no matter how careless he becomes. Then one day, she's gone, and the silence hits different. The phone doesn't ring the same. The house doesn't feel the same. Success doesn't taste the same. That's when regret shows up, not because he suddenly became wiser, but because the comfort he depended on is missing. He starts replaying moments he ignored, conversations he brushed off, warnings he didn't take seriously. And in that quiet space, he finally hears the truth he avoided when she was speaking it out loud. Absence has a way of teaching lessons presence never could. When she was there, he had options. He could procrastinate, delay change, promise growth tomorrow. But when she leaves, tomorrow disappears. Now all he has is memory. Now he understands that her patience wasn't weakness. It was love. Her loyalty wasn't guaranteed. It was a choice. And her silence at the end wasn't peace. It was exhaustion. What hurts the most is realizing she didn't ask for perfection. She asked for effort. She didn't need riches. She needed reassurance. She didn't demand greatness. She believed in his potential and waited for him to step into it. And he mistook that belief as permission to stay the same. That's the tragedy. Not that she left, but that she stayed as long as she did, hoping he would see her value before it was too late. Now regret becomes a teacher. He starts comparing every woman he meets to the one he lost. Nobody listens like she did. Nobody understands in the same way. Nobody feels like home. And that's when prayer enters the picture. He starts asking God for another chance, not realizing the chance already came and went. God already sent the lesson wrapped in love, patience, and loyalty. And when it wasn't appreciated, God removed it. That's how men learn. Not always through advice, not always through warnings, but through loss, through the echo of what used to be, through the empty space where love once lived. And by the time he understands her value, she's already learned hers. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey here, and let me tell you something that a lot of people learn the hard way. Consistency, loyalty, and emotional safety are priceless, and yet they are the very things most often taken for granted. When a woman shows up the same way every day, when her love doesn't depend on moods, money, or moments, it starts to feel ordinary to the man receiving it. He forgets that consistency is rare. He forgets that loyalty is a choice made daily, not an obligation. He forgets that emotional safety is something a woman creates with care, patience, and sacrifice. See, emotional safety means you can come home and be yourself. It means you can fail and not be shamed. It means you can speak your fears without them being used against you. A good woman gives that freely, but it costs her something every time. She absorbs stress, smooths rough edges, and calms storms she didn't create. She learns his moods, his triggers, his dreams, and his wounds. She adjusts herself to protect his peace, often while neglecting her own. And because she does it quietly, he assumes it requires no effort. Loyalty is another thing men misunderstand. Loyalty doesn't mean a woman has no options. Loyalty means she chooses you even when other doors are open. It means she protects your name when you're not around. It means she stays committed when things get uncomfortable. But when loyalty is met with neglect, disrespect, or inconsistency, it begins to erode. Not because she wants to leave, but because staying starts to cost her too much of herself. Consistency from a woman is dangerous when it's unappreciated because it teaches a man the wrong lesson. It teaches him that love will always be there no matter how careless he becomes. He starts giving the bare minimum, thinking the maximum will still be returned. He delays growth. He postpones commitment. He ignores the quiet signals that she's getting tired. And by the time the signals turn into silence, he's already late. What men don't realize is that women don't leave when they're angry. They leave when they're empty. They leave after they've communicated, explained, and compromised. They leave after praying, hoping, and waiting. When emotional safety disappears for her, she begins to protect herself instead. She stops sharing. She stops asking. She stops expecting. And that's the most dangerous phase because by then she's already halfway gone. When she finally leaves, that's when the value of consistency becomes clear. He misses the way she checked on him, the way she remembered the small things, the way she believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. Suddenly, chaos replaces comfort. Uncertainty replaces peace. And now he understands that emotional safety wasn't automatic, it was built by her. Regret comes from realizing that what he lost can't be replaced easily. Anyone can be exciting for a moment. Anyone can show up when things are good. But it takes a special kind of woman to be steady, loyal, and emotionally present through seasons of struggle. And once she's gone, the absence becomes loud. Every argument feels colder. Every silence feels heavier. Every success feels incomplete. That's when prayer starts. He starts asking God for another woman like her, not realizing how rare she was. He asked for peace, but he didn't protect the peace he had. He asked for loyalty, but he didn't honor the loyalty he received. And God doesn't always repeat lessons the same way. Sometimes the lesson is the loss. By the time he understands the price of consistency, she has already learned her worth. She has already realized that emotional safety should go both ways. And while he's praying for what he lost, she's walking toward a life where her love is finally valued. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey here, and let me speak on something that hurts a little because it's true. Growth sometimes comes too late after a woman has already chosen self-respect over waiting. A lot of men believe they have time. Time to mature, time to commit, time to change. They think love will wait patiently in the corner while they figure life out. But love has a limit, and patience has an expiration date when it's being abused. A woman will wait, yes, but not forever. She will invest in potential, encourage progress, and stand beside a man while he's building himself. She will overlook flaws, forgive mistakes, and believe promises when her heart is involved. But every delay in growth costs her something. Every broken promise chips away at her hope. Every horn day that never comes teaches her that she's not a priority. Men often mistake patience for permission. They think because she's still there, nothing is wrong. They think silence means understanding. They think love means she'll adjust to whatever pace he chooses. What they don't see is that while he's standing still, she's growing tired. She's learning lessons about her own worth. She's realizing that love shouldn't feel like waiting in line for effort that never arrives. There comes a moment when a woman stops asking and starts observing. She watches actions instead of listening to words. She notices patterns instead of believing excuses. And in that quiet observation, something shifts. Her love becomes guarded. Her expectations become realistic. She begins to understand that staying loyal to someone who refuses to grow is a form of self-betrayal. When she chooses self-respect, it's not sudden. It's built on years of disappointment. It's built on nights spent crying alone, wondering why she wasn't enough to inspire change. It's built on prayers asking God to either fix the relationship or free her from it. And when freedom finally comes, it comes with strength, not anger. That's when the man decides to grow. Funny how that works. The wake-up call comes after the door closes. He starts reflecting. He starts working on himself. He starts becoming the man she needed him to be while she was still there. But growth that comes too late doesn't reverse consequences. It only brings awareness. Regret is a heavy teacher. He realizes that the woman didn't leave because she stopped loving him. She left because she started loving herself more. He understands that her standards weren't unreasonable. They were necessary. that her requests weren't demands, they were cries for partnership. And now, with no one left to prove it to, he carries the weight of what could have been. What hurts the most is knowing that if he had grown just a little sooner, the story might have ended differently. If he had taken her feelings seriously, if he had matched her effort, if he had followed through instead of talking about it. But life doesn't operate on almosts and maybes. It responds to action. A woman who chooses self-respect doesn't look back the same way. She doesn't regret leaving, even if she still feels love. She understands that growth should be mutual, not one-sided. She knows that waiting for someone to become ready can cost you years of your life. And once she steps into that clarity, she doesn't return to confusion. Meanwhile, the man carries the lesson forward. Every relationship after her feels different. He's more aware, more careful, more intentional. But there's a sadness in knowing that the woman who taught him how to grow will never benefit from that growth. She was the seed. Someone else gets the harvest. And that's the truth of growth that comes too late. By the time he becomes the man she needed, she's already become the woman who no longer needs him. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey here, and let me tell you how losing a good woman has a way of waking a man up in places nothing else can reach. Losing her forces reflection, maturity, and sometimes even a spiritual awakening, because when everything that once felt stable disappears, a man is left alone with himself. No distractions, no excuses, no one to soften the truth. Just him and the reality of what he failed to protect. When she was there, he leaned on her strength without realizing it. Her belief in him carried him through days when he doubted himself. Her prayers covered him when he didn't even know how to pray for himself. Her presence gave him confidence, even when he acted like he didn't need it. But once she's gone, that invisible support system disappears and he feels exposed. Life hits harder. Decisions feel heavier. And for the first time, he understands how much of his balance came from her. Loss creates a mirror. It forces a man to look at his patterns, his habits, and his choices without someone else absorbing the consequences. He starts replaying moments where he could have done better, but chose comfort instead. Moments where pride mattered more than partnership. Moments where he dismissed her feelings instead of protecting them. Reflection doesn't come gently. It comes through regret, through loneliness, and through the realization that the damage wasn't caused by bad luck, but by missed responsibility. Maturity often arrives through pain. A man begins to understand that leadership in a relationship isn't about control. It's about care. It's not about being right. It's about being reliable. He learns that love requires consistency, emotional presence, and accountability. These lessons rarely stick when things are going well. They settle in when something valuable is lost and can't be recovered. Spiritual awakening often follows emotional loss. When he realizes that nothing he accomplishes can fill the space she left, he turns inward and upward. He starts praying, not always because he's faithful, but because he's desperate. He asks God for clarity, forgiveness, and sometimes for another chance. In that process, he begins to recognize that she wasn't just a woman in his life, she was a blessing he mishandled. Prayer changes from routine to necessity. He prays because the house is quiet. He prays because success feels empty. He prays because he finally understands that love was the grace holding his life together. And through those prayers, he gains humility. He starts acknowledging that his ego cost him something irreplaceable, that his delay in growth came with permanent consequences. But awakening doesn't mean reversal. Just because a man sees the truth doesn't mean he gets to rewrite the story. Growth happens, yes, but often after the lesson has already been taught. The woman he lost doesn't come back to validate his transformation. She's already on her own journey, healing, rebuilding, and rediscovering herself without him. What stays with him is the understanding that God doesn't remove people randomly. Sometimes people are removed to expose what we refuse to fix. Her absence becomes the catalyst that pushes him toward becoming better, even though she will never benefit from that improvement. That realization humbles him deeply. He carries her impact into every area of his life. In how he treats people, in how he listens, in how he shows up. Her loss reshapes his values. He becomes more intentional, more present, more aware of how fragile love really is. And while the pain of losing her never fully disappears, it transforms into wisdom. That's the cost of awakening. It doesn't come without loss. It doesn't come without regret. And it doesn't come on our timeline. Sometimes it comes only after the woman who held everything together is gone, leaving behind a man who finally understands what he had when it was too late. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey here. And let me talk to you about something powerful, something humbling, something that changes a man in ways success never could. Prayer often replaces presence when opportunity is missed, and that's one of the hardest lessons life teaches, because there was a time when he didn't have to pray for her. She was right there. Accessible, available, loving him in real time. But he treated her presence like it was permanent instead of precious. When she was there, she asked for time, attention, effort, and honesty. Simple things. She wanted to feel chosen, valued, and protected. She wanted consistency, not perfection. But he thought showing up later would be enough. He thought words could cover what actions were missing. He thought love would wait quietly while he focused on everything else. And because she stayed longer than she should have, he believed she always would. What he didn't realize is that a woman's presence is a gift, not a guarantee. Every day she chose him, she was making a decision. She was prioritizing him. She was investing emotionally. And when those investments went unnoticed, when appreciation turned into expectation, her love slowly shifted from giving to surviving. There's a moment when a woman stops feeling seen, when she realizes she's physically present, but emotionally alone. She's in the relationship, but she's carrying it by herself. And in that space, her prayers change. She stops praying for the relationship to grow and starts praying for strength. Strength to endure, strength to leave. Either way, a shift has already happened. When she finally walks away, the man feels the absence immediately. The same woman he once ignored is now the woman he can't stop thinking about. The same voice he tuned out is now the silence that keeps him awake. And that's when prayer shows up. Not disciplined prayer, not routine prayer. Desperate prayer, the kind of prayer that comes from loss. Now he's talking to God about the very thing she used to talk to him about. He's asking for peace she once provided. He's asking for understanding she tried to give. He's asking for another chance he didn't value the first time. Prayer becomes the substitute for presence, but it doesn't work the same way. Because prayer can bring clarity, but it can't rewind time. In those prayers, he starts admitting truths he avoided before. He admits he took her for granted. He admits he delayed change. He admits he assumed she'd always be there. And that honesty hurts because it comes too late to fix what's already broken. God will listen, but God won't always restore what was removed to teach a lesson. What makes it heavier is realizing that prayer is quiet, but her presence was alive. She laughed with him. She supported him. She believed in him when nobody else did. She covered him in ways he didn't even recognize. And now all he has are memories and moments frozen in time, reminding him of what love looked like when it was still within reach. Prayer humbles a man because it forces him to acknowledge that he lost control of something valuable. He understands now that love isn't secured by intention alone, but by action. That waiting too long has consequences. That opportunity doesn't always circle back, and that some blessings only come once. Meanwhile, the woman he's praying for isn't praying the same prayer anymore. She's praying for healing. She's praying for peace. She's praying for a future where her love is returned without begging. She's no longer asking God to fix him. She's asking God to guide her. And that difference matters. The painful truth is that prayer can grow you, but it can't replace what presence once provided. It can teach you, but it can't undo neglect. It can prepare you for the future, but it won't restore the past. And the man has to live with that understanding. So now he prays with maturity instead of confidence, with humility instead of assumption. He prays knowing that the woman he lost was a lesson, a blessing, and a turning point. And while he may become a better man because of that loss, the woman who inspired the prayers already walking in a life where her presence is no longer optional, but honored. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey here. And let me close this truth all the way out by talking about something that doesn't get enough respect. A woman who walks away teaches a lesson no lecture ever could. You can talk to a man all day. You can warn him, advise him, encourage him, even beg him. But nothing teaches like consequence. Nothing hits harder than losing something you finally realize you needed. When a woman decides to walk away, it's not because she woke up one morning and stopped caring. It's because she cared too much for too long. She stayed through confusion, inconsistency, and broken promises. She tried communication. She tried patience. She tried understanding. She gave chances that weren't deserved yet. And each time she stayed, she hoped it would be different next time. That hope is what kept her there longer than she should have been. But a woman reaches a point where love without respect becomes unbearable. She realizes that explaining herself repeatedly is emotional exhaustion, that waiting for change is stealing her time, that loyalty without appreciation slowly erases her identity. And when she finally chooses to leave, it's not dramatic, it's calm, it's quiet, it's firm, because by then she's already done her grieving while still in the relationship. That's why her departure feels shocking to him. He didn't hear her warnings because he didn't think she would ever act on them. He thought her love was permanent. He thought her patience was unlimited. He thought her heart would bend forever. But what he didn't understand is that self-respect grows where disappointment lies. And once it grows strong enough, love can no longer convince her to stay. Her absence becomes the loudest lesson he's ever experienced. No more reminders. No more second chances. No more emotional safety net. Just space, silence, and reality. He starts realizing how much she did that he never thanked her for. How much she protected him. How much she believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. And now all of that is gone. That's when regret shows up differently. It's not loud at first. It's subtle. It's in the small moments. When something good happens and there's nobody to share it with. When something goes wrong and there's nobody who understands him the way she did. When nights feel longer and success feels emptier. That's when the lesson starts sinking in. A woman who walks away doesn't need revenge. Her growth is the response. She rebuilds herself. She redirects her love. She pours into her peace. She stops shrinking to make someone else comfortable. And that transformation becomes part of the lesson too. Because the man sees that she didn't lose him, he lost her. He learns that love isn't about convenience. It's about care. He learns that effort delayed is effort denied. He learns that people don't leave because they want to. They leave because they have to. And those lessons stay with him longer than any argument ever could. What makes it permanent is that he can't undo it. He can apologize, but the apology doesn't rewind her healing. He can grow, but the growth doesn't restore the access. He can change, but the change doesn't reopen the door. And that's the part that humbles him the most, because for the first time, he understands that timing matters. That love requires action in the moment, not reflection afterward. The woman who walks away carries her lesson forward too. She learns that staying too long teaches people how to treat you. She learns that love should feel safe, not draining. She learns that choosing herself isn't selfish, it's necessary. And she never forgets the strength it took to leave something she once prayed would work. Meanwhile, the man carries the lesson quietly into future relationships, into conversations he takes more seriously, into choices he makes more carefully. He becomes more intentional, but there's always that understanding that the woman who taught him this lesson will never benefit from it. She was the cost of his education. And that's why a woman who walks away is unforgettable. Not because she was perfect, but because she was real. She loved deeply. She stayed honestly. And she left with dignity. She didn't need to explain herself anymore. Her absence said everything. So when people say the woman he lost is the woman he prays for now, understand this. It's not just about missing her. It's about missing who he was when her love covered him. It's about realizing too late that some women don't come back. Not because they don't care, but because they finally do.